in Haines, there's one person here only, really. And I'm going to clerk for Judge Pallenberg, who'll be on the line shortly in the Juneau Court. Will be joining us on the line. But it's still not 8:30, so it may take a bit to get it all started. Who's just joined us on the line, please?
Hi, good morning. This is Julie Willoughby.
All right, Ms. Willoughby, your client is also on the telephone, Mr. Osborn.
Okay, is Mr. Whittington in the courtroom, Your Honor?
He is. He is.
Could we make sure that he has my phone number? The phone number that I have for him is no longer working.
All right. You want to give him your phone number?
Yes,
go ahead.
Please. It's 907-586-1415.
1450. Are you appearing
15. Sorry, I apologize.
15. 1415. 586-1415. And then, Ms. Willoughby, are you appearing for Mr. Whittington?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Your Honor, I didn't see him on the calendar, but I had him calendared.
Mr. Whittington is listed as represented by the public defender, but he's on the calendar at the very bottom. Joined us on the phone, please.
This is Heather, the in-court clerk in Juneau.
Oh, hi. Okay, so basically, Heather, you could take over at this point.
Okay, and who do we have? Do we have anyone in the courtroom?
Oh, yes, we have. I'll tell you who's here, and you can keep track. Let's see. In the courtroom, we have Mr. Whittington and Mr. Taylor, who are defendants. And the Officer Long just walked in. He's been looking for Mr. Hotch. Have you found him yet? No. So Mr. Scott Hotch is on the calendar this morning, but he hasn't appeared yet, and he has a new offense with an arrest warrant out, which they've been trying to serve, and they haven't been able to yet. So I guess I don't expect him to appear.
Okay.
I'll be surprised if he does, but I would ask Officer Long to stand by for a little bit to see if he does.
Okay, I will put you guys on the overhead and we'll get started shortly.
Well, I've got more folks
okay.
on the phone.
Welcome to Ready Access by Century. Thank you. Please stand by. You will now be placed into conference.
All right, your court is now in session. The Honorable Philip Lombard today.
Good morning. You can have a seat. We're on record for the purpose of Haines. I was going to say Haines and Skagway. I think they're all Haines today. Calendar calls. We've got one person in custody. Let's take his case first. This is Mr. Morgan, State of Alaska versus Judson Morgan. I think Ms. Carpenetti represents Mr. Morgan. Is she with us on the phone? We're missing Ms. Carpenetti.
No, Your Honor. This is Alex Foote with OPA in Anchorage, and I'm covering for Ms. Carpenetti this morning.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Foote. Thank you for being with us. Ms. Page is here for the state. This case is on for trial in Haines next week. Mr. Foote, from your perspective, should it remain on the calendar for next week?
No, Your Honor. We're going to request that this case be continued to the next trial call. It sounds like the parties are very close to a negotiated resolution, but there's a couple fine points that Ms. Carpenetti wanted to iron out.
Ms. Page, is there any opposition to that?
No, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Morgan, you have a right to speedy trial. If your counsel requests that the case be postponed, that extends the time frame for Welcome to Ready Access by CenturyLink. Thank you. Please stand by. You will now be placed into conference. Mr. Osborn, State of Alaska versus Trampus Osborn. I believe Mr. Osborn is with us on the phone. Mr. Osborn, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Your Honor, I can.
And do we have Ms. Willoughby with us?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this case is also on for trial next week in Haines. Ms. Willoughby, should it remain on for trial?
No, Your Honor. Yesterday, I filed both with the Haines Court and the Juneau Court and in Chambers a non-opposed motion to continue it because of medical reasons, and that motion had asked that this matter be continued to June. And I am assuming the court has not yet seen that motion.
I didn't. Tell me what you were asking, when you were asking to move it to, just out a month or something different than that?
No, June, sir. His treatment should be completed. There was a doctor's letter that was attached. It should be completed in May of this year. He's in San Diego receiving ongoing treatment. And so we had asked that it be continued to June.
Got it. Ms. Page, and that is not opposed.
No. I mean, yes, it is not opposed.
I asked you the question in a double negative, so it was... All right. So the June calendar would have a trial the week of June 3rd, pre-trial, yes, would be Tuesday, May 28th. That's a Monday holiday week, so that sometimes causes some confusion for days. Actually, we haven't said it. We haven't said anything else that far out. I wonder maybe if it would make sense to put it on Wednesday because of the Monday holiday. We haven't really sorted out how we're dealing with Monday holiday weeks for pretrials, but it seems like it makes sense to do that. So let's set the pretrial Wednesday, May 29th at 8:30. The trial June 4th. I'm sorry, June 3rd. I said June 4th. June 3rd at 8:30. Anything, and Rule 45 would be told for that period of delay. Mr. Osborn, you understand we're extending the speedy trial time to allow this to happen?
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
All right. Good luck with your treatment.
Thank you, sir. May I be excused?
You may. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next case on my list is Lee Taylor. Do we have Mr. Taylor with us on the phone?
Mr. Taylor is present. This is Lynn Asper, Your Honor. Mr. Taylor is present here in Haines.
Thank you. And is Mr. Petropoulos with us on the phone?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Page is here for the state. Mr. Taylor has several cases that are on for next week. Mr. Petropoulos, should those remain on for trial in Haines next week?
No, Your Honor. We'd request a continuance to waive Rule 45. I obtained some additional discovery last week, and I'm still going through it. It's audio recordings and video.
All right. And you broke up just a little bit. Are you asking for the April calendar?
If that's acceptable to the court, and Mr. Taylor will waive Rule 45.
Ms. Page?
What's that date, Your Honor?
That would be a trial date of April 1st, pretrial March 26th.
That's perfect.
Mr. Taylor, is that okay with you?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I will set the cases off until those dates, 8:30 in the morning, both dates, and that's 18/11, 24, and 25. March 26th and April 1st, yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. You're free to go today. Right. The next case I have on my list is Jason Albecker. Do we have Mr. Albecker with us on the phone?
Your Honor, I think that if we don't, that's because Mr. Albecker filed a motion to, a non-opposed motion to move this hearing. I think.
I heard there was one, but I haven't seen it.
The chairperson has disconnected. The conference will now end. Welcome to Ready Access by CenturyLink. Thank you. Please stand by. If you are the chairperson, press the start key now. Your conference will begin when the chairperson arrives. Please wait. Be placed into conference.
Hello, this is Lynn Asper. I lost the contact. Who's on the phone now?
August Petropoulos.
I'm sorry. Name, please.
August Petropoulos.
Okay, you're still on. I think we've lost the Juneau court, so... Is Heather on yet?
This is Heather.
Okay, I'm sorry we lost the connection. I've got it back. I don't know who's on. Mr. Petropoulos is on. He's the only one I've heard from.
Okay.
And you've got, and Miss Willoughby's here. And, Judge, I've got another court waiting for me at 9 o'clock. I've got Mr. Whittington. I apologize.
All right, well, I think we lost the connection to the Haines court, and I think Mr. Whittington was in the Haines court, and we don't have him, so we're trying to patch you
Your
back.
Honor.
Oh, you're
Got
back.
it and he's here.
Good, all right, so we are connected with Haines. Let's take Mr. Whittington so that Ms. Willoughby can get on her way. Ms. Page is here in the courtroom in Juneau. And Mr. Whittington, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Willoughby, should this case remain on for next week?
It should not, Your Honor. This is a serious case, and Mr. Whittington and I have had communications issues. They're entirely my fault. And so I think we're reestablished. This case very well might go to trial. If we could set it on the April calendar, I would appreciate that. With the Rule 45 waiver, if that's okay with Mr. Whittington.
You said April calendar?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Page, any objection to that?
No, that's fine.
So we'll set the matter off. That'll be a 2-month continuance. Mr. Whittington, is that okay with you?
Yes.
So Rule 45 would be told for the period of delay. We would reset the matter for trial April 1st at 8:30 with a pretrial March 26th at 8:30 in Haines. The trial to be set in Haines. Anything else on Mr. Whittington's case this morning?
No, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
You bet. Thank you. Mr. Whittington, you're free to go. Will be your excuse. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Going back to Mr. Albecker, I now have in front of me a non-opposed motion to continue the calendar call. It's not crystal clear from the motion exactly what Ms. Bauer is asking for, because the motion was only to continue the calendar call, not to continue the trial. The proposed order suggests that what she was asking was to continue both the calendar call and the trial, because the order has a date for pretrial blank day of February and trial the blank day of March.
And, Your Honor, I can tell you that I spoke with Ms. Bauer's office about this issue, and part of the reason for the continuance is that Mr. Albecker is down south in treatment. And so when we spoke, we talked about moving calendar call and trial together at least 30 days so he could finish that program. So I think the motion is not clear. I agree with you, but I think that the intention was to move both.
Right. Given the way the order was written, that I'll take it that way. I'll take it as a motion to continue. As such, I think it's reasonable to interpret it that way, and therefore to take it as a waiver of Rule 45 for that period of delay. Based on that interpretation, I will continue the trial to March 4th at 8:30, pretrial February 26th at 8:30. I'll fill in those dates on the order so that Ms. Bauer has notice of the new dates, and I'll issue that order, and we'll do that. All right. Next case on my list is Mr. Jimmie, State of Alaska versus Charles Jimmie Jr. Mr. Jimmie has several cases. Ms. Griffin is here for Mr. Jimmie. Ms. Page is here for the state. I'm guessing we don't have Mr. Jimmie with us this morning. And I think last we knew he was had gone down to Wrangell, and I think was in an assisted living facility down there, and there were some issues going on with him.
And I think based on the information that Mr. Pulaski gave me before and the information the court has, the court might have more information about Mr. Jimmie than and I do have some concerns that he may have forgotten me, and he doesn't have a telephone, so I need to figure out how to find him.
I would say, honestly, there are some questions, I think, about competency, questions in my mind about competency. I say that because I heard a confidential proceeding guardianship case in which I made a finding of incapacity and appointed a guardian for him. By saying that, I'm revealing something confidential about Mr. Jimmie, but I think it's necessary to do that. I'm not saying that I think he's incompetent. I think it at least raises the question. I don't particularly want to send Mr. Jimmie to Anchorage and have him sit at API for months awaiting that, but I think that we need to sort out what his ability is to participate in these proceedings. We haven't had that much contact. The court has not had much contact with Mr. Jimmie in a while. He was here in the courtroom in the probate case in December, I believe.
It was about a month ago.
But my recollection was at that time that there was an indication that he would not be returning to Haines for a little while, and I think he went to Wrangell to stay in an assisted living facility there. I assume he could be reached through whatever the assisted living home is in Wrangell, and I think Ms. Carpenetti represented him in that case. So you might touch base with Ms. Carpenetti about contact.
Yeah, I will, if that's the case, I will. I thought maybe Mr. Pulaski was representing him in that.
You may be right. I'm not right.
So that's an option, yeah. If I can find out where he is staying, then I can probably locate him.
And I think OPA, public guardian here, is his guardian.
All right. We did discuss an agreement to close out Mr. Jimmie's cases, and I just haven't had the opportunity to inform him of the offer from the state.
Should we continue these to sort that out?
Can we set this for continued pretrial on Friday? I think I don't think we're going to go to, I mean, my impression is that we're not going to go to trial on this because there's a lot of issues going on, and we had reached what I think is at least a tentative agreement. So I think setting this for continued pretrial on Friday would be acceptable. And then we'll just talk about, hopefully you can find him in that amount of time.
That's fine.
(10:45) Friday, 10:45 a.m. Friday's pretty full, but I can fit him in there.
Actually,
this is Lynn Asper, Judge. I assume this will just all be recorded in Juneau. I don't have, there's no real point for me to record that hearing if you could do it.
So that works for us.
And Your Honor, I have an appointment in Anchorage at 11 o'clock on Friday, so I'm not certain if 10:45 will be enough time.
So I'm not sure that I can fit it in any of. Well, I guess I suppose I could put it at 8:30 on Friday. I could do it at 8:30.
Well, Mr. Singh is telling me that he can cover the 10:45, so we can just leave it there.
Okay, Ms. Page, is that okay with you?
That's fine.
So all right, so we'll set it at 10:45 a.m. Friday. We'll record it in Juneau. And if Mr. Jimmie's in Wrangell, we can patch him in through the court here.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you. Next case on my list is Scott Hotch. Mr. Singh is here representing Mr. Hotch. Ms. Page is here for the state. Judge Asper, do we have Mr. Hotch in Haines?
No, what's happened, Your Honor, is that on Saturday night there was a charge of another offense, a similar offense, but Mr. Hotch wasn't apprehended at that time. He disappeared from the scene. Magistrate Germain issued an arrest warrant, bail set in the amount of $5,000, but that hasn't been served yet. Officer Long's in the court if you want any more details, but they haven't been able to locate Mr. Hotch yet, and of course he hasn't appeared for this morning's hearing.
Mr. Singh, anything you know or can add to that?
No.
Ms. Page?
Your Honor, the information I have is that Mr. Hotch strangled the same victim, which is to say that he committed the exact same offense against the exact same person. I'm not positive. I don't believe that their no contact order had been lifted. I feel like I would remember that if it had. He's not here today. I think that there's certainly some performance concerns given that he had already had two offenses pending, a driving license revoked and VCOR, as well as this assault in the second degree. The state would ask for a bench warrant in the amount of $5,000.
I'm just double checking on the contact issue. I see a temporary order from Magistrate Judge Germain, September 25th, that says no contact with Andrea Robinson. I assume that's the person. Ms. Page?
Yes.
And I don't see any order after that time that lifted that. Just skimming quickly through the log notes.
Officer Long's at the council table if you had any questions, Judge.
Officer Long, do you have any awareness that there was a point after that date at which the court lifted the no contact order, or was it your understanding that it was still in effect?
It was my understanding that it was still in effect, Your Honor.
All right, yeah, I don't see anything since that time lifting it. I mean, I think situation in which somebody is charged with assault 2, is out on bail, has a no contact order, and then is charged with another assault 2 for allegedly committing the same conduct with the same victim is particularly serious. It's a particularly serious allegation. It's troubling to me that the probable cause affidavit from the weekend said that Mr. Hotch was committed this offense and that he was expressing suicidal intention at that time, and he hasn't been seen since. That's obviously of concern. So there's concern about Mr. Hotch as well as about Ms. Robinson. I will issue a $10,000 bench warrant on the old felony case, 1827. I will issue a $1,000 bench warrant on the driving with license revoked, 1831, and hopefully we'll see Mr. Hotch safely, I hope. Vacate the trial next week. Go off record. Next case I have is James Arendt.
Mr. Arendt has a consent to proceed in his file, Your Honor. I don't believe he's on the line. I thought discovery was complete, and I'm realizing now that I might be missing some audio. It may have been delivered to my office, and I'm not certain. I don't know if Ms. Page has a delivery log or a discovery log about that.
It looks like we delivered, or at least we produced, a CD that was available for your office as of the 27th of December.
Okay. So, Your Honor, I'm going to need to track that down and review it. I would just ask to set this out 1 month so I can get all that together and see if we can't.
Ms. Page, any objection?
No, that's fine.
Continue the matter a month, set it for pretrial February 26, 8:30. Jury trial March 4th, 8:30. Next case is...
Your Honor, if I might interject,
yes,
I think Mr. Petropoulos is still on the line with a client who's further up the list. Is that right, Mr. Petropoulos?
I'm on the line, and I believe Mr. Matthews is.
He was the next on my list, so I was about to call Mr. Matthews.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Quite all right.
Way up on mine.
Your order may be different than mine. Is Mr. Matthews with us? Or do we have a consent to proceed?
We do, Your Honor, and my understanding he was going to call in, but I did file a consent to proceed, so I don't think we'll need to bench warrant him.
That's fine. Is Mr.
He was on the line, Judge, but I think we lost him in that
okay.
Technical.
Let me just double check. Mr. Matthews, are you there? That's fine. I do see the consent to proceed. So this case is also on for next week, Mr. Petropoulos. Should it remain on?
No, Your Honor, I'd ask for the April dates. With Mr. Matthews' case, I obtained some additional discovery last week. I have to go through it. It's audio and video. So, and I've already talked to him. I talked to him yesterday. He'll waive his Rule 45 time.
Ms. Page, any objection to that?
No.
So I will, with a Rule 45 waiver, set Mr. Matthews' case. Sorry, Mr. Matthews' case off for a pretrial hearing March 26th. I'm sorry. I think I've been saying March 26th on those cases, so we should stick with that. That Monday is actually a holiday. I overlooked that. We'll stick with March 26th because I've given that date to other people. Tuesday, March 26th, 8:30 for pretrial. April 1st for jury trial, both at 8:30.
Thank you. May I be excused?
Yes, you may. Thank you. I think that's all the cases. Is there anybody on the line who thinks we've overlooked them? All right. And I think that's it. Thank you, Judge Asper.
You're welcome.
We can go off record.